And there we are recording. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. And if anyone additionally chimes in, we'll certainly let them in the call. But to take advantage of our time today, we'll go ahead and kick things off. My name is Dawn Evans Casey, not Jennifer Johnson. I'm logged in under Jennifer's account for the Zoom call. I just want to thank Jennifer Johnson and TTR Networking overall for providing this forum so that I can present this session. I've been a member, a leader of a group, of a networking group, and of the executive team for TTR Networking for a while now, and just absolutely love the relationships, the connections that we're able to maintain and develop, meeting new and wonderful people. I think it was towards the end of last year, TTR Networking had a program, Success Connect, where attendees could find out who we are, what we do well, and how we can give ourselves away. So as a result of that, and thinking about how relationships develop, I'm thinking about my passion for genealogy and family history. It's something that I love to do, and I wanted to share what I know with others. So it's always easy to identify our shortcomings and our problems, but this gives me an opportunity to focus on my strengths and my passions. So thank you for being here with me today. I don't know if you can unmute at this time. I wanted to kind of gauge for the audience, how many of you have any experience or background in family history and genealogy, in doing your own research? Or is this something brand new that you're just trying to find out if it's something that you'd like to undertake? Feel free to unmute yourselves and share. How about you, Nicole?
Brand new.
Brand new.
Wonderful. And thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks.
Wonderful. What about you, Sarah?
Brand new as well.
Awesome.
I just thought it sounded really interesting, and just kind of like to hear about like what you have to share so I can do a little research on my own about
Wonderful.
my family.
Thanks for being here. Debbie Clifton?
Hi, I just moved because I was in a noisy room. My husband and son listening to football, so I moved into the kitchen quickly. I use Ancestry.
Okay.
And I've traced back some of the family. It gets a bit more difficult when we've got my mother-in-law found out that her dad wasn't her dad on the day that her mum died, and it was an American or a Canadian soldier during the Second World War that was her father. So that's a real challenge trying to track him.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's my difficulty at the moment.
I understand. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Jennifer?
Are you talking to me?
I am. What's your experience or background with family history and genealogy?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm here to be a sponge. I'm being totally honest. I have no idea.
Wonderful.
I thought you said my name. So yes, I'm learning. I'm sorry, we're out in the middle of nowhere. It's very loud and stuff with the rain. So I'm listening, but I'm excited. Thank you for doing this, Dawn.
No problem. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
Nancy?
No experience, but I'm afraid I'm going to find something like that other woman just mentioned where, parents were not parents.
That does happen. That does happen. And part of the genealogy and family history is realizing that, we can't go back and change the past. So it's validating information, it's finding truths, and making the best of it, moving forward with the knowledge that you have, they're validated a truth, and now and with the truth that you can move forward in the strength of that. So it does happen sometimes, but thank you, Nancy. Deborah Payne, how about you?
Hi, I've been working on my genealogy for quite a long time, since about 1982.
Oh, wow.
And I have quite a few skeletons in my family closet. And I always say the skeletons are the most interesting part. And if you're afraid of the skeletons, don't go in the closet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But sometimes it's good to be able to face fears, to be able to move forward in our life successfully, and quash those things that may be stumbling blocks or challenges to us. But certainly, if you're not ready for it, this might not be something that you should undertake. But expect that there will be some surprises for sure. Thanks, Deborah. Antoinette, are you able to unmute and let us know your background with genealogy and family history?
She has some, there are a couple of comments. Dawn, Antoinette put one in there.
Okay, great. I've spent years researching for years. I'm based in Ireland. Wonderful. Wow. Well, thanks for being a part of this session today, Antoinette. And certainly those of you that have any experience at all, if you have comments and contributions that might assist in sharing good information, please contribute as we go. How about Carolyn? Carolyn,
Yes.
Do you mind telling us? Can you unmute? Okay. And
She has a comment too.
earlier, Carolyn mentioned that she was at work. So, okay, she does have some experience in gathering research. Wonderful. Wonderful. She's in the US, but her husband and family are based in Ireland. That's Carolyn. All right. Wonderful. Thank you for contributing. Yumiko, Kumiko Yamada, can you unmute and let us know what your level of experience is?
What difference does that make? Oh.
Okay. I don't see a message or Kumiko unmuting, so we will go forward. Thank you all so much again for being here. I am going to share my screen and go into the presentation. Here we go. All right. So today's session is all about genealogy and family history for legacy or just for fun. There were a couple of things that, and again, I want to invite you all, if you have a question or a contribution as we go, if you want to raise your hand or put a comment in the box, or just feel free to interrupt me, especially if I use some verbiage that may need further explanation, please do so. I found this acronym that I absolutely love. I don't know Dan Mount, but what he states here as far as family just resonates with me. F is for form a strong bond with all of your family. A is for always remember that they may be in a different place. M, make time together fun and memorable. I, ignore the petty differences that occur. L is for love. Love them while you can. Life can be short. And Y is for you can be the glue that keeps them together. I just love that. Next, this is just a very formal definition of family. It's a noun, of course. Family is a group that dreams, laughs, plays, and loves together, always present, not only in the good times, and it is the most precious gift. I love that definition
Did you
because
hear that
it's
first?
not specifically
Why?
traditional
I-
family, mom, dad, brother, and
I tried to
sister.
blind her.
I claim to have many
Guide
families.
little-
My
little
my
background
neighborhood
for this,
family that I
so-
grew up with, my college family, my sorority sisters are like family. So I don't know, it depends. Everybody gets the opportunity to define family and what it means to them. This is a definition that certainly works for me. Next, I wanted to share what genealogy and family history is. So genealogy comes from the Greek word genealogia, yes, the making of a pedigree. And it's the study of family origins, family history, and tracing of their lineages. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and all kinds of other records to obtain information about a
Hey,
family.
Dawn, I'm sorry
Yes.
to interrupt
No, yes.
you. There's interference. Someone might have a mic open where they're talking, so it's interfering with yours.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if everyone can mute themselves. I don't know if you can hear that, but I thought it was just me, but but thank you, Carolyn. Maybe it's Nancy's. I'm not sure if you're able to mute Nancy.
I think it's muted now, though.
Okay,
I don't
good.
hear it now.
Okay.
Do you hear it now? Yeah, I don't.
Comes and it
That's a good
goes.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that
Everybody
being
be
the case-
muted unless Dawn is talking to you or something. Thank you.
So I'll
Thank
just remind everybody, yes, if you could mute during most of the presentation, and just remember to unmute your call when you have a question or when you're contributing conversation. That will be most helpful. Thank you. So we'll pick back up and say the results are often displayed in charts and written narratives when we are doing our genealogy. And the field of family history is a little bit broader than what we understand genealogy to be. It covers not just lineage, but it also talks about, family and community and history and biography. So I tend to focus, I talk a lot and I mention the word genealogy, but a lot of the times I'm talking about family history. Certainly, when I became interested in genealogy and family history, I wanted to know more than just the names of who I was related to. I wanted to, per se, put a body back on the bones of my dead ancestors. I wanted to understand what types of lives they lived, what they looked like, what they did, who they were as people. So certainly in my research, I'm covering a lot of family history, not just identifying the lineage, but the who and when and what about those individuals that I'm identifying. And for me, genealogy and family history, it's an adventure. It's an exciting view into a family's past. It's confirmation of the information that I come across. It's piecing together a puzzle of ancestors, their lives, and who they were associated with. It's uncovering secrets that were once hushed and held in silence. it's speaking the names of some people who may have long been forgotten. It's successive history lessons that are flavored with personal experiences. So for me, again, it's very exciting and something that I'm passionate about. I wanted to share a little bit about who I am. So contrary to what you see under my Zoom box, my name is Dawn Evans Casey. I'm a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, a grandma, and a friend. And those are the titles that are most important to me in my life. I didn't go to school for them. They don't pay me anything, but certainly it's those titles that bring me an abundance of joy day in and day out. I'm a Gemini. And I'll admit that I do have dual personalities. For the most part, I'm a positive social person. I enjoy building relationships and making connections. I like meeting people and sharing stories. I love chocolate and wine and travel and cooking and poetry and cute furry animals like kitty cats. Everything about me, of course, isn't perfect. I'm a procrastinator and a pack rat, and I'm oftentimes impulsive, and I talk out loud to myself. I'm just telling you these things because that's the authentic me. But those types of things help me be the genealogist that I am. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I'm the youngest of 3 kids born to parents who were both born in the South in Mississippi and Alabama. They both moved to Michigan in the 1940s when they were school aged. And that time period was considered the second great migration for African Americans in the United States, moving from the South to the Northeast and the Midwest. I grew up attending Catholic school in Detroit from kindergarten to 12th grade. And I decided to attend undergraduate school at a historically Black college in the South. After growing up in the Midwest, I wanted to go down South and see that lifestyle, that culture where my parents were born and spent their early years. So I attended Talladega College in Alabama, and I pursued a business degree. I returned to the Midwest after that to start my professional career. And now I've lived on the east side of Indianapolis, Indiana for 30 plus years. I've worked as an auditor and a risk manager in different capacities. I've pursued an entrepreneurial endeavor with my home-based travel business, Spa Travel. And I co-founded with my husband a nonprofit called Claiming Your Roots. And our nonprofit is an educational outreach program that works to stimulate and support interest in family history. We educate various ages in the fundamentals of genealogy and DNA. We encourage research of family lineages. We involve families as a group in the research efforts. And we promote understanding of various heritages and communities. Through this endeavor, we are encouraging love and understanding, respect, self-awareness, and sharing. But to be fully disclosed, I am neither a certified or accredited genealogist at this time. I don't perform genealogy or family history searches for other people for revenue. I speak and guide and inspire based upon my own experience and knowledge base. So I hope that you find this session interesting and enlightening and are able to gather some tidbits that are helpful to you to get started. Next, I wanted to share some of the benefits as I know them of documenting your family lineage and history. And to begin with, I'll start with legacy. And that was part of the title of today's session, whether you're doing this for fun or for legacy. So legacy piece is knowing and celebrating our past, as well as documenting and sharing and passing it along for the future. And this can be, verbal stories. It can be a binder of uh, of information, of biographies of your family members. It could be, a photo album, a picture book, the Bible cover that a lot of families have, the Bible with the birth dates and christening dates and death dates and burial locations. All of this is information. It's documenting the family lineage and history, and it's something that can be shared from generation to generation. Another benefit, of course, is fun, as I mentioned. And to me, you can go some amazing places and certainly meet some amazing people that you're related to that you don't even know today. Then through your research, you'll identify your ancestors and find out there's some pretty wonderful people in your ancestral past. You get to sit down with family members and share stories and find out things that will really surprise and amaze you. Some for the good. Sometimes they're tear-jerking stories, sad stories, or like we mentioned before, some pretty surprising information. But overall, I want to think I've particularly enjoyed the process and had a lot of fun doing it. And I've engaged my family members in my family history research process, and just the doing something side by side with people that you love with a common interest, and listening to everybody else's perspective as well as yours really adds a lot. It's fun and enjoyable. Another reason is for health. Understanding your genetic makeup helps reduce the risk of developing health problems. Oftentimes when we're looking at our family history information, looking at death records, understanding where patterns have occurred, understanding where genetics have played a role in passing down a predisposition to a particular ailment or disease. Identifying that actually helps us to be able to take a stance of, well, I'm in a place of better control. I can choose health habits, diets, to take a course where I can limit the risk of that health issue becoming a problem for me. So health is another really good reason. Core identity is also a wonderful benefit. Knowing your cultural background and where you come from really helps build a strong sense of who you really are. It helps to strengthen your authenticity. Compassion is another benefit. We have an opportunity to learn the history of our ancestors, and it helps us understand their lives and challenges, ultimately inspiring greater love and compassion in their flaws and shortcomings. Also, we have a chance to understand cultural norms, community experiences, historical impacts, and all of these things broaden our knowledge and our personal perspectives. So we could look at something today back in our family's history and say, man, that's strange, or why did they do that? Or, oh, I'd never do it that way, or I'd never eat that, or, you know, when we understand the cultural basis for things and why people did what they did, or what their limitation of resources chose them to uh, to do everyday things a particular way. Again, it broadens our knowledge, our perspective, and our compassion. Resilience and strength is another benefit of knowing our family lineage and history. Engaging in family history builds our resilience as we see and learn patterns of overcoming failure and surviving hard times. All of us can look back at our family history and our families that struggled through the Great Depression or struggled through wartime. It really gives us a perspective of how they managed, how they lived day to day. And we can inherit and claim and draw on those strengths and that resilience in our own lives. The last item that I have there as a benefit is connection. And I want to say human beings desire attachment, belonging, and connection all the time. The relationships that we form with other people can be incredibly durable and satisfying. We get to pay respect and celebrate our ancestors' lives. It helps to enhance our life and history that we're actively creating today. And then we can leave a keepsake for our future that can be built upon. So those are the benefits that I wanted to identify of knowing your family history. Does anybody have anything else that they'd want to add or contribute at this time? Remember, go ahead.
Yes, it's okay. I think it's really interesting. Like my dad's really interested in the family tree, and he'd done quite a bit of work. So he's got folders, it's full of paper, and he's got lots of photographs, which is lovely. I need to make sure that he writes on the back of the photos who they all are, because when he dies, he's 83, and when he goes, then I won't know who they are. I won't, some of them I can work out. But it's also like my son's quite interested. My daughter, although she's really strong, she's so family orientated, she's not interested in history. She's only interested in now. She said, oh, it's boring, I don't want to know, because I'm trying to get excited to tell her, and she's not interested at all. But I thought maybe it's an age thing. She's 25, and maybe as you get older you become more interested in your history. Maybe when she has children she'll feel differently. There's something there, but there's definitely, I've asked my dad to fill in a book and talk about what he's like done in his life, like what was his school that he went to, what has he achieved, his qualifications. I know a lot of it, but I want it written down so that I can pass that on and I can do something similar for myself. And you talked about the kind of like your personality. I'd love to find out about the personality of my ancestors, but I don't know how to do it. I mean, one of the other things I found is how sad it is to hear when you're going back and about all the deaths of the children, because you go back to sort of like 8, when you go to 18 or something, they have a child, that one dies, and they have another child, and that one, and it's just heartbreaking, because you kind of like try and imagine what that must have been like, and they were poor and it was really hard. It's just it makes you feel like you're so privileged to live now and be able to go to a hospital and have children and kind of be well cared for and well fed and so on. It's just, it's really hard, some of it. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to add.
Oh, thank you. It's absolutely true. Thank you so much for those comments. I certainly agree with you that younger people tend to think they'll live forever. They have plenty of time. family history and genealogy isn't a priority in their lives. I was that way when I was younger myself, I have to admit. But as I've gotten older and realizing that I have wonderful family members that have passed on, and I did not sit down with them and gather their stories, or I didn't record their voice, or I can't recall now, what was their professional career, or what was their life's passion. And that's part of why we started our nonprofit, and why we try to engage people as a whole family unit to share the reasons why it's important, and to help engage people now, rather than putting it off for later. Yeah. Thanks again. Anybody else?
There was one other thing was my husband's granddad only died a couple of years ago, and he was 103 when he died.
Oh, wow.
And his stories were amazing. And he talks about he used to make pianos, and that's such a dying art now. And and he delivered them with a horse and cart, and he went to war, and he went through the Second World War, and he has just so much life that he lived. He didn't really want to talk about the war, but he told us certain things, and he actually wrote it up when he was around 90. He actually decided to write it, and he wrote about 4 or 5 pages on his life, and it's fascinating. So I'm so pleased I've got that. I kind of want everyone to write down. It doesn't matter if you think it's insignificant, because it's going to be significant for the next person.
Most definitely. I think it would really be amazing if we took the time, when we do reach out, when we do engage our other family members, rather than talking about what you watched on TV yesterday or what you had for breakfast, if more people shared those life stories, those funny moments, those really heart-filled engagements between people, that's information, that's the golden nuggets that really last through time, that really are very meaningful. So that's the way to engage when we're on the phone with our family and just touching base. How are you? Reminisce over that stuff, over your family history and your memories and stories about your loved ones, rather than gossiping or, sharing inconsequential information. You'll never know what a difference actually retaining those stories and then sharing them with future generations. What a wonderful difference that can make. Let's see, I'm going to go to our next slide. Okay, so next I wanted to talk briefly about genealogy skill sets and traits. And this was a list that I compiled. My husband and my team at the nonprofit were just talking about, well, what types of things are helpful? Certainly no individual has to have all of these skills and traits to be a successful genealogist or family historian. There are certainly some of these are very important to be able to effectively engage others and research and dig into the information and understand it. But this is a list of about 24 items. I'm just going to quickly go over some of them, not all 24, to indicate why they're important. And the first one is patience. And I tell my husband this one all the time. When he's ready to do family research and he reaches out to somebody, he wants results. He wants responses. And I'm like, sweetie, you got to be patient. Everyone else is not at the same place you are right now. Everybody else has their own life. They're doing their own things. They've got their own priorities. So you have to be patient when you're interacting with people and asking for details and information and engaging with others. Everything doesn't happen all at once. Genealogy and family history it's not something you finish in a week, like reading a good book. It takes patience and it takes time, but there are so many good things that'll be gleaned from that. Let's see. Open-mindedness, I'll talk about. You have to recognize that there are secrets and surprises, joyous and sad things that you'll come across when you're doing your research. And as I mentioned earlier, you have to realize that you can't go back and change the past. Oftentimes, we have to be open-minded, experience the emotion that comes with what we're finding out, but have a certain level of emotional maturity to be able to deal with it and to be able to document it and share the important pieces of it without being offensive, without being too judgmental about it. Note-taking. Note-taking becomes extremely important because you might as well carry around a notepad and a pen constantly. You never know when you're going to come across valuable, fruitful information in your research. So be ready to gather it up. Write it down when you're talking with someone. Jot those notes down. Make sure that you note who you're getting the information from and when, so that you'll be able to go back and refer to it. And the note-taking goes hand in hand with being somewhat detail-oriented. As a genealogist or family historian, you can end up with notebooks and mounds of paper and pictures and everything. It can get quite voluminous. So to have a process of how you're going to organize it, chronological order, by family surnames, by generations, all those things you need to take into consideration and determine how you're going to organize your information. So I don't know if anyone has a question about any particular skill set or trait and why that's important. I'd be happy to share it. But for the sake of time, I think we're going to move forward in the presentation. Okay. So the next slide is all about deciding if you're going to do your family history project. Do you decide to do it solo or do you make it a family affair? And I've alluded to the fact that in our nonprofit, we desire to get families together and get everybody engaged in the process. That might not work for everybody. So here's the comparison of when you're doing it by yourself, you make your own project scope and rules, you create your project plan, you schedule yourself to do the work when you're available to do the research. It's good to conduct status checks where you can look at your information from a high level. You might need to do a corrective plan. You might want to share your information with an independent source. Sometimes you come up on roadblocks or you've got inconsistent information as far as maybe, well, this says that they were born this date and year, and this one says they were born at a different time and date. How do you determine what's accurate and correct? Sometimes you share that information with someone else. Oh, I think we've got someone unmuted. Okay. Sometimes you want to share that information with someone else and help get their input to help clarify and validate the information that you're seeing. Sometimes you come up on on brick walls where you know that individuals have information that you need, but they may not be open and willing to share it, or you can't seem to go any further. You know that this person existed, but you can't find out who their parents were. You're not sure where they're from. You might want to talk to another genealogist and get their input on what resource am I missing that might be able to provide me guidance and information on understanding this, on getting through this brick wall and identifying the information that I'm looking for, or to clarify the difference between these sources, which one is correct. And oftentimes it takes looking at a whole pool of information. Well, what's reasonable as far as that birth date for that person? You know, when were they considered an adult and of age, having children? And sometimes it's the calculatus eliminatus to get to your factual information. So you can do it on your own and certainly not rely on so many others. It may be a speedier process. It may be a longer process because you're only relying on you. I tend to lean towards the family or team approach to genealogy and family history, certainly because I think that it adds to that aspect of fun and engagement. It also adds lots of eyes on the project. So when you get to a problem, a standstill, or conflicting information, you have lots of people at your ready resource to help you work through that problem. As well, you may not have all those skills that we mentioned in the previous slide, but when you're working in a family or a team, you have a lot of other individuals, and it may be their skill set that's very useful in a particular area. You know, grandma might love to talk on the telephone and make connections with relatives. And she can, in her regular conversations, be checking out or completing a family sheet when she's talking to somebody, gathering details and information, jotting down stories. You know, the younger ones who are so computer savvy may be the perfect ones to set up to do an internet research project, to dig into the information that's out there on the World Wide Web, to manage the data on an application like Ancestry or MyHeritage or something like that. And young adults or adults who love to travel, they might be the perfect ones to go to the sites or locations. If you're living now on the West Coast, but your family initiated on the East Coast, that's where the cluster of your ancestors are. Well, you know, you may want to travel and go see the cemeteries and the courthouses and the communities where those ancestors lived, and glean information and details from those experiences. So that's what you get to do when you're in a family team genealogy project, is use the skill sets of many to help get you to your ultimate goal of documenting family history. Do any of our guests have any stories about how they've done any of their family history so far, whether you've done it as a group project or a solo endeavor? Feel free to unmute yourselves and share.
Well, I used my dad's research that he'd already done, but he did it on his own and I did it on my own, but his information was much more accurate because he knew the people that all gone, you know, that all died. So I didn't necessarily meet them all. So I knew that his information was really accurate, and he had memories of like his nan and and like the stories and things. So no, I haven't done it kind of working with anybody, but we do want to, because a lot of my husband's family are all, so I'm in the south of England. And a lot of my husband's family are literally within a mile of here. They lived within a mile, which is amazing to find out.
Wow.
And the pub that we normally go to, well, when there's no COVID, we would go to, they were living in the building opposite the pub. It's just like, it was just unbelievable. It was like we were treading in their footsteps. But yeah, we're going to do a little tour of Dorset, which is the county that I live in, when COVID restrictions lift, and so we can actually visit the places where they lived.
Wonderful. I absolutely love travel. I'm excited, you know, when COVID is over, to get back to traveling and seeing a lot more places where my ancestors are from. But to be able to go to where your ancestors communed and lived and congregated is an awesome experience, and I would recommend that to anybody. Okay, let's see. Next, let's talk about getting started on your project. So we've heard a lot about why we would undertake a family history or genealogy project, and some of the basics, the skill sets of what it takes. So to actually jump in and get it done, you'd have to think about, well, where do you want to start? You identify your focus family or person that you want to take a look at. And it may be your family. You want to decide, well, you know, maybe I don't know my great grandparents. Maybe what I want to do is identify from myself backwards to my great grandparents. Now, generally, barring additional marriages and so forth, you know, you have 2 parents, you have 4 great grandparents, you have 4 grandparents, 8 great grandparents. So you can start from that position and think about, well, let me fill in the blanks. Let me see what I can identify on them. And I was looking to see if I had handy. Oh gosh, where is it? Sorry. A family tree, a pedigree chart to show you that you could utilize to fill in. So once you decide on who it is, what family or that you're trying to document, you want to start writing down as much as you know about them, who they are, what was their birth date, their death date, if they are deceased, where they lived, where they were born, where they lived, where they died, filling in that general information. And of course, when you're working with a team, you can be doing it, your sibling can be doing it, your other team members can be doing it for that same family as well. So you can get together and you can compare your information. As in Debbie's case, she had information and her father had information, and then she was able to compare the two, identify when there was overlapping or inconsistent information, and figure out which one was most valid. But that's your starting place. At least that's the place that you know, for this present time, this is what I know about the family. Then you identify, well, where are the gaps? Perhaps a census said that this family had 7 children, and in the next census, you only see 5. Well, what happened 10 years later? Were there children that became adults that moved out of the house? Did any children pass away? What happened to the structure of that household? And you start to form questions about what you want to research and investigate to find out about. So once you identify your question, your problem, your source of what you're actually trying to research and review, then you can go about, as I mentioned previously, utilizing various resources to dig into history and find out what happened. Where are these people? Where are my gaps? Who can I fill in? Excuse me. You get back together, you share information, you go over your details, you figure out what's valid, you fill in the dots, and hopefully you end up with a complete family tree. That may be the end of your project, or you may decide to go further. Now I want to investigate a particular person in more detail. I want to find out a little bit more about their life, where they lived, what their daily habits were, what went on in their relationships. So you build that outline and you research to fill in the gaps. And as you're researching, this can be a short-term project, it can be a long-term project, and you really never know from the start. It's all going to depend on how much information you can find, how many holes still exist, and what type of information did you find? Did it make sense? Is this answering your question, or could there be more? So in order to do your research, there are all kinds of low cost and no cost resources. A lot of the reason why I encourage people to do their own research is not only is it, I don't know, very, very empowering and very satisfying to dig in and find that information yourself rather than paying somebody else to do it. But it's also probably more cost effective for you to do it yourself. So I wanted to share some resources that were low cost or no cost to give you the idea of what can you do. Of course, talking to your family members near and far, picking up a telephone and making that call and making a connection. And as I said earlier, asking questions. Did you know grandma's brother or grandma Bell's father's name, and where was he from? And really kind of digging into the detail of who your ancestors are and where they were from. Another thing is looking at genealogy research libraries, or your regular neighborhood library may have a genealogy section. I'm sure they've got plenty of books, published papers, microfilm that you can go through. You can also contact the library in the area where your ancestors lived and ask them questions. Ask them if they're familiar with the surname that you're looking at. Ask them what genealogy resources are available there. There are many historical museums and university libraries that have archives with materials that pertain to that particular town or country. So utilize those resources. You know, go with your notebook and your pen and some time and go ahead and start going into those archives. Searching the World Wide Web. A Google search can turn up a lot of information for you. So don't hesitate. Something that I'll make sure to share with you, some of the golden rules of genealogy is that in family history, spelling doesn't count. I have found variations of my family's surnames from the 1850s to 2000 have changed several times. Sometimes there's an extra S, sometimes they've dropped an S, sometimes they've left out a letter. It's crazy. So don't worry that you spell your family name a particular way. Think of other ways that it could have been spelled historically. If someone was giving census information, that census taker may not have asked, now, how do you spell that? They may have actually guessed how a particular name, a first name or last name was spelled and just wrote it down there. So you have to be aware of those types of things as you're doing your research, and be open-minded and flexible. Think outside of the box. I know we're coming up on time, so I just wanted to reiterate there's quite a few resources: social media, census records, funeral homes and cemeteries have information on ancestors. The largest DNA companies, Ancestry, Family Search, etc. They have paid subscriptions, but they also have free free access to portals with limited access. So take advantage of that before you pay for a subscription, and make sure that those sources have useful information for you. Fold 3 is a military record website that is utilized quite a bit. So if you know that your ancestor was a serviceman, you might go to that resource to gain information. So for the sake of time, I do want to open up and ask, are there any questions or additional comments that anyone would like to share?
Oh, she froze. Is she frozen on everybody's or just mine?
Am I frozen?
You were.
Oh,
You were. You're back.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I
That's
just,
okay. That's all right.
Oh.
She's frozen again. Oh, there you are. Uh-oh.
okay.
Dawn, how do people get a hold of you? How do
Oh.
people get a hold of you?
Well,
Do you have that information? Did I miss it?
I didn't put it up there. Anybody can get you can reach out to me through Claiming Your Roots on the Facebook page. And that is
Okay.
a public page. Or you can email me at claimingyourroots@gmail.com. And I'll put that information into the chat room.
And I might also just put out there that I will follow up with an email, just because I have everybody's email too. I don't mean to sound creepy, like I got your email, so I'm gonna follow up with a creepy email. But we, Dawn, Dawn, you might even want to, just respond with your email, or, respond to people through that too, maybe, or something. Because I know you mentioned quite a few resources, and that was, I'm sorry, because I think we lost you once or twice, but we're back at our home finally. Thank you. So, but and I was thinking, if somebody has, because I wouldn't even know where to go, and I wouldn't even know where to start. So a lot of your information very helpful in that respect.
Problem.
So
I'm happy to share this slide deck with any of today's attendees as well, just so that you have a resource that you can refer back to with the lists of information and suggestions that are included there. So why don't we?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
The Ancestry website, is that worth investing in for a while? Will they get you pretty far really quick, or?
Yes, I believe it is. Now my husband and I share a membership. So he actually has the Ancestry account, and I log in under his account. He also manages quite a few other individuals who have done DNA tests. So when questions come in, or somebody makes an inquiry based upon, say, our cousin's tree, that they're able to communicate with my husband as well as my cousin, and we're able to share our tree information with and compare it to theirs to find out where those connections are and build from there. So I would say if you have an opportunity, if you are in a family or cluster group that may utilize a service, go in and utilize it as a group together, manage it together. It's more cost effective, and it gives everybody, access to the information that's available.
Is that the same? Now, you were talking about ancestry.com is what you just said, right, Nancy? So you're actually, okay, so what about like I think I did a thing for Philip, like, was it 24andMe or something?
23andMe, yes.
23andMe. And I think there were some things that came up in that we were listening. And of course, Philip was driving. I wasn't driving, but he was saying he's always been curious after getting the results of that, some stuff that he would be interested in. So that's reliable as well, right?
Yes, it is. Yes,
I mean,
it is.
those kind of things. Okay.
Something,
I know I just paid a price. Go ahead.
I was going to recommend, I know Facebook has a user group that's related, an Ancestry user group. I would assume it's got a 23andMe user group as well. So you can connect with others on social media, and they are routinely talking about, hey, something went crazy with my tree on Ancestry. This is my problem. And you can talk to other users who may be having that same problem or help walk you through. It's not always as easy to contact the customer service of the application Ancestry, 23andMe, MyHeritage to get clear, useful answers or resolutions. Sometimes it's just talking to somebody else who's doing the same thing that you're doing to figure out how to do it better. So you can utilize the users group in a social media setting such as Facebook, and also glean the information from the data that you find in your genealogy or DNA applications such as 23andMe or Ancestry. I would encourage anybody who has a membership in one of those sites to use it. Don't just let it sit idle. There's lots of great information out there. And I've often spent nights just sitting up, making a connection, making the next connection, and then realizing, well, heck, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. What am I still doing here on my computer? But it's so much fun to me. I absolutely love it. So don't let your membership to any of those applications or organizations sit idle. There is a lot to be gleaned from that.
Sometimes Ancestry has special offers. So at the moment, I've got it really cheap, but I can only access UK records. And so it's a bit annoying that I can't look at the American Canadian side. So, but it's it's in pounds, obviously, £5 sterling a month. So it's so cheap at the moment. So I'm going to do that until it will go up, I think, next month, and then I'll cancel and wait for the next special offer. See if I can. Otherwise, it does work out quite expensive.
Yeah.
I was sort of like, paying quite a lot every month, and if you go a month and don't use it, then you're wasting your resource.
Exactly. I agree. And it's wonderful.
You mentioned about newspapers.
Yes.
Well, do you get past newspapers from the actual? Do you contact the newspaper company, or do you get them through like the history center or something?
You can do it various ways. If the newspaper, of course, is still active and in production, you can reach out to them. Newspapers usually have their own archives, and they usually have an archive department that can help you with your research. if the newspaper is defunct, you have the opportunity. I know that Ancestry has a connection to another application that is all newspapers and periodicals of the past, so that they have been scanned and digitized and are available for research and review. So depending on what type of a membership you have with Ancestry, you may have access to that resource as well.
I'll have a look. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. Did I miss any questions, Nicole, that you're aware of?
No, a couple of folks looks like they had to leave and they left you nice messages. And Kamiko thanked you for the information, and it will help her further search in the family history. And me too. I'm so thankful for this. Wow, wealth of
Awesome.
information.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to help. I love to share this. As I mentioned, let's see, my Claiming Your Roots email is in there. And as I mentioned, you can always join our Facebook group. You don't have to be part of the nonprofit environment to be able to get in and read some of the inspirational and informational posts that we routinely share there. So I think that that's about it. We will wrap it up. If there aren't any last thoughts. Oh, I did have a couple of resources here that I could share. If you can see, these are some actual product of genealogy research on my family that were pulled together, that were not only pictures, but bios that were written on individuals from the past. And, you know, the way that I got into genealogy is one day my mom and my husband and I are sitting around chatting, and my mom points at a big box she has in the living room. And Dawn, when I'm gone, all of this is for you. I was like, I don't want that. I don't know those people. I don't know that junk. You know, it was disorganized. I didn't know anything about it. And my husband said, trying to get in good with his mother-in-law, I'm going to make her want to know that information. And he is a big history buff and started doing his family history. And I'm always looking over his shoulder and oohing at what he was doing. And then I got caught up in it as well. And it's absolutely wonderful. It is something that I look forward to passing down to my family, to my children and their children and beyond, and let them continue to build with it. So I hope if you all have the time and the interest that you will do some type of a family history product, something that you can be proud of, that brings joy to your spirit, that you're happy to share with others as well. And I'll end on that. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Dawn. That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you,
care.
everybody. Bye,
Have a great
everybody.
rest of the week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey, Kenya, you're still there?
Yeah, trying to get off. Sorry.
No problem.
Good job,
How was
Dawn.
it? How was it?
It was good. It was good. I'm thinking I might have to ask you to do one for a group at the school. So think about that if you would,
Okay.
please,
Oh, sure.
because part of the professional staff association, and I've been talking about the genealogy, but encouraging others to do it. And maybe if they see some of the benefits, or even if you want to pass along the slides or whatever, I'm happy to actually make the presentation too. Okay, but have a good day. Thank you so much. It was really great.
Thank you. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
Mhm.